this up here. Hi everyone, I'm Michelle Wedderburn. Welcome back to my channel, Wind Down Wednesdays. I'm excited to be here tonight to talk to my guests who will talk very candidly about their experiences with renting in Mexico, including any stories that I can add and contribute to that as well. In this past couple of weeks, I have been focusing on just things that are challenges for people when they move here, why those things are challenges, and just kind of being very candid about not just all the pretty and all the things we love about Mexico, and that still doesn't change my opinion about Mexico, but I also think it's important to shine light on things that are real life things that can happen anywhere in the world or wherever you might be moving to. So tonight we're going to focus on renting mostly, I guess, because we're renters. And challenges that people may have with whatever their challenges are. So I'm Michelle Wedderburn. I live in central Mexico in San Miguel de Allende. I have been here for over 7 years. I absolutely love living in Mexico, love living in San Miguel, love the people of Mexico. People always ask me what's my thing, and I always tell them that's one of my biggest reasons for really enjoying my life in this country is really the people. It's not just all the things I have access to. And so I want to just kind of say that I'm the founder of Casa, which is a boutique guest house. We help people have soft landing experiences in Mexico or in central Mexico. And we also help them with relocating, information about how to do it. I have packages. You can find all of that information at casaelm.com. And most recently, I'm the founder as well of Hacienda Elm, which is a space dedicated to individuals who are 60 plus who want to be in living community. So if that sounds like something that's of interest to you, please make sure you go to the website or websites and check both of those things out. I will drop a few links in our chat in a moment, but I just want to say thank you so much to Lamar and Angela for being here and their doggies. And I want to also say thank you to Anne-Marie for joining us tonight of BaldGirlWillTravel. I will let, and also, I'm sorry, Lamar and Angela of Living Life Abundantly and Anne-Marie of BaldGirlWillTravel, and also the anti-HR lady. I will also let them introduce themselves after I do a little housekeeping. So if you're here tonight, welcome. Thank you. If you're watching a replay, again, thank you. Please make sure you subscribe to my channel and make sure you hit the like video and share if this topic is for you. So before we jump in, I want to say thank you to Michelle Watson of Ingenuity and Spice Company for being our official sponsor, actually at both places, because I already have her teas over at Hacienda. So I'm excited about that. It's good stuff. And she also has a book. So please make sure you check out her website, which is here in the link, right? Yeah, you can see that in the live chat. And we also have our upcoming relocation tour. I have a couple guests here right now for this week, and it's been really amazing. They're very serious about San Miguel, and it's just always nice to kind of be a part of those journeys. Again, things happen along the way, and I also want to, just like I said, keep things very real about challenges. You know, they made some comments to me earlier or last night about just saying thank you for kind of bringing the real talk along the way, the emotions that we kind of go through as well, especially if you move here on your own. A lot of people do that. There's a lot of things that we can talk about in regard to that. And also want to talk about Dia de los Muertos. I am co-hosting this with Anne-Marie, and we have still day passes that are available for that event, which is November the 2nd. So you can please go and check out the link here if this is something you want to do and you want to hang out with us in the group setting. I believe there's still spaces, right, Anne-Marie?
Got lots of spaces available.
Okay, good. It's a full day of fun things that have to do with Dia de los Muertos, but in addition to that, we're also going to honor our loved ones that have already passed on, and you can check everything out at the link. It gives you full details of the day. It tells you what we're doing, how much it costs, And it's a full day of Katrina, a full day of fun, a full day of socializing and all the things. So this is an opportunity for you to join us if that's something that you're interested in doing and you're already in San Miguel. The group part of the trip is full. So
No.
yeah, you got to get in when you can get in. I also want to share, and this I'm sharing because I already put it out there. We only have 7 spaces left out of 20. I just put it out there about a week and a half ago. We are doing a Thanksgiving brunch again at Casa. It's called Roots and Rhythm Jamaican Brunch. So you can check out the menu at that link. We're also going to have live entertainment by Danielle and another guest singer. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's on the 23rd of November, which is the Sunday before Thanksgiving. And it's in the afternoon, so it's not a late night thing. And the menu, I just have to say, is really amazing. So go and check it out when you get a chance. And also we have our October SMA meetup, and we still have spaces for that. I think we have 1 VIP space left and a couple general admission tickets, so you can check that out there. And the last thing I want to share with you is we also have a Thanksgiving week. So if you are interested in getting away from the US and hanging out in Mexico and doing Thanksgiving here, even though Mexico does not celebrate Thanksgiving per se, but we're going to have a week where if you want to just come and get away, relax, and enjoy the activities that are listed on the link, please check that out. And it does include the brunch. So it includes the brunch if we have space. So you still have 7 spaces available. So yeah, if you want to come and stay for the week, it will definitely include the brunch. You will be a part of that. Okay. And that's all I have to share. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in. I'll let Lamar and Angela start by introducing themselves, where you are in Mexico, and how long you've been here. And then after we do all our intros, we'll get into the topic and the questions. Thank you again for being here. And don't forget to like and subscribe, everyone. And in between, I will acknowledge everyone in the chat.
Yeah.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
This
you.
is
You're
my
welcome.
husband, Lamar,
And this is my wife, Angela.
and we are 2 expats living in beautiful Querétaro, Mexico,
Yes.
which is not far from where Michelle is in San Miguel de Allende. We're about 3 hours north of Mexico City, and we've been here for almost 4 years now.
Yeah, almost
Wow.
4 years.
4 years now. We came to Mexico. Actually, we came to Querétaro specifically, sight unseen.
Yeah.
And we knew after having done our homework that this was going to be the place that we were going to love, and we do.
Yep, we do.
Absolutely correct. We came here, moved from Maryland to Mexico. We drove from Maryland to Mexico with our minivan and came here with 2 teenagers.
And-
Our oldest is here as well, but she's an adult.
Yeah.
And 2 dogs.
Yes.
Which you may hear running around here. Actually, there are 3 now.
Yes.
But we've been absolutely loving our lives here in Mexico, and came to Mexico really in quest of finding out what the meaning of John 10:10 means, which is, I have come that you might have life and have it abundantly. So what does that mean, especially in relation to our lives back in the United States? We pretty much were a constant part of the grind of the get up, go to work, come home, go to bed type of mentality. And so when we really, after the pandemic,
and I got burnt out from the constant news about situations in the United States during that time, and it was just too much. So and it was time. It was time.
Yeah. And so we packed our bags, our sold off most of everything. We did ship things down here because we weren't coming back, and found a place to live here. So we'll tell you more about that.
Yes, that's why we're here.
Yep.
Okay, well, thank you so much and welcome. I didn't know you had already been here for over 4 years, so
Yes.
time flies when you're having a
Yes,
good
it
time,
does. Yes, it
right?
does.
Okay, good for you. And I'm happy to hear that you did some of the things that people are curious about, which is driving in from the US and also shipping things. I think a
Shipping,
lot of,
driving,
right, yeah, so,
dogs,
Pets.
right,
pets, yeah,
dogs, pets.
everything.
I think that's really
Children, schools,
important.
all the things.
Right. I think I saw your recent video. By the way, they do have a channel, right? You want to go
Yes.
ahead and tell us the name of the channel and then we'll
Our
get to.
channel is simply Lamar and Angela, Lamar and Angela, and
Okay.
we're on YouTube.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
Okay. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Anne Marie.
Hi there, everybody. So I'm Anne Marie, and I'm known on social media. You either know me as BaldGirlWillTravel, or you know me as the anti-HR, formerly the anti-HR lady. And I have lived in Mexico for a little over 4 years now. I moved to San Miguel about 4.5 years ago. And I also, left the US. As I always tell people, I'm both a recovering attorney and an HR executive. So I saw the regression that was coming. I didn't know
Mhm.
how bad it was going to be, but I recognized that the United States was in a regression. And so if we are students of history, as I always tell people, then you have an idea of what historically that looks like in the United States, right? And so I decided that if they could put a certain type of person in office once, they would like to do it again. So I decided I wanted to get out before it
Right.
happened again. So even though I moved around the tail end of that person coming out of office, I still recognized what it meant that that person had been in office. And I kind of refer to him like Voldemort, he who shall not be named. So I decided that was time for me to get out. So I got out. My child is a semi-adult, but he still lives in the US. But I decided it was time for me to make my escape. People who follow me on my HR channel know more about how I went about financing that. So if you're interested in that, you can follow me. But I carefully and strategically mapped my escape from what I call the corporate plantation and went to Mexico. San Miguel was not the place I initially thought I was going to end up, but Michelle kind of lured me here and I fell in love with it. And so I stayed. I always tell people I literally did what kind of some of the things that we're going to say that people shouldn't do, because I came for a visit, found the place I love, leased it before I left. But I did do certain things, which I'll talk about before leasing it. But I had been around Mexico. I'd been traveling around Mexico trying to decide where I wanted to be. And I got here and realized that this was where I wanted to be. And I think I still believe I made the right decision. I really love living in San Miguel. I do travel a lot. So this is probably the longest I've been here without traveling for a while. But I really enjoy living here and having this be the base of where I live and where I run my businesses from. And I highly recommend it. But I do think, as we're going to talk about, that there are things that you need to recognize and understand about living abroad. I literally just posted a video on my channel a little bit about some thoughts I had about Americans living abroad and traveling, because I do both quite a bit. And so there's certain things I think we have to think about as people who are transplants or immigrants, because I consider myself an immigrant in Mexico. I never use the term expat. And I think there are things that we need to consider when we're entering into business transactions, when we're renting, and when we're living in a different country. And so I'll turn it back over to Michelle, but I hope that's a good introduction of myself. If you're interested in what I do, Ball Girl Travel is a travel company. I also share a lot of lifestyle and fashion things there on that platform. And I aspire to take as many Black women over the age of 40 all over the world as I possibly can before I leave this mortal coil. That is like my life's goal. And so I take Black women all over the world, and it's a lot of fun. And then on the other part of my life, I use my HR and legal expertise to help Black people, especially Black women, escape discriminatory hostile work environments and get their employers to pay them to leave those work environments so they can do things like move to Mexico or wherever they happen to want to move. So that's the other thing that I do. So whether either of those things interest you, can find me on social media and on YouTube. Michelle will drop those links, I'm sure. and learn more about what I do. But I'm really glad to be here to talk about this particular topic because I don't think a lot of people talk about it in the right way. And I know Michelle will. So that's why I volunteered.
Thank you. I appreciate both of you for volunteering. And as I said, last 2 weeks we had discussions about just people who've had a tough time with the adjustments of living abroad, the emotional things that people go through. You know, it can be a roller coaster ride. It doesn't mean they don't want to be here, but I can tell you sometimes it does push you back to the wall where you may even consider going back home. And so I'm keeping it real as much as I can. And, you know, for those who want to share their stories and things like that, because I know there are a lot of stories out there that sometimes people may feel a certain way about it. But I think it's okay if you have a struggle or a problem to talk through that if it helps you, because sometimes it helps you learn and grow, but also it's going to help you with teaching it's going to help someone else learn about those processes and steps and things that they can ask better questions of. Like I said, my moving to Mexico over 7 years ago, even with the traveling in and out of Mexico experiences that I had for a lot of years, it's not the same as moving. And when I moved here, I made a lot of mistakes, and spent a lot of extra money and all the things, and is the reason why I do what I do. But in addition to that, hopefully create a space where people feel like, okay, even if the challenge arises, I still have community, I still have places I can go to get answers, and it softens the blow for whatever it is that might come up. So I just want to say thank you all again for being here. And yes, you'll be able to find all of the details for everyone in the description box here on YouTube. And if there's anything you want to add at the end as well before we wrap it up, feel free to do that, okay? Before we get started, I want to say welcome to Shauna, welcome to Michelle. She said, yay, the Querétaro team is checking in. And hey, Shauna, I'm looking forward to seeing you soon. Hi, Khadijah, how are you? Hey, Diane. Thank you all for being here. Hi, Sharon. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Cheryl. Release Your Life, hello. Scrolling down, Cece is saying hello to Angela and LeVar, looking gorgeous as ever. Hi from Cheryl again. Melva, she said she visited Querétaro past May and will be living in Guanajuato in November. Congratulations, good for you. So glad you're here. Hopefully you get some good, useful information. Hello to Release Your Life again. Cece said hello to Anne-Marie. Glad you're speaking more about living in Mexico. Angela and Mar from Lisa, she said that she watched your journeys. I guess one of your first, their journey was one of the first that she started to follow after, I guess, Exodus journey or something like that. Jetta, hi, how are you? Angel, hello. Dallas, soon to relocate to Mexico, in the house. Excellent. All right. Thank you all for being here. Don't forget to hit the like button. Okay. We're going to get started. So usually my interviews are kind of more conversational. I do have questions and things like that, but I'll let you all share. So I guess I'm going to start it with maybe, can you walk us, and this for Lamar and Angela, I can start. Walk us through maybe your very first rental experience in Mexico. Like, how was that for you? Maybe just like even going through the setup process and maybe what your expectations were versus maybe what happened, what actually the outcome was.
That actually started in the States because we did a video call with our actual real estate agent here in Querétaro.
Okay.
So it started in the States, but even before we got here. So we did a video, or she did a video.
She walked through one of the properties that they had available for us. But again, my personal advice is to put your boots on the ground before you actually pull the trigger and release something. And I'm glad we did. She did walk us through one of the candidate houses, but we didn't wind up going with that house. Now, I come from a real estate background. I have sold real estate. Lamar is actually my worst real estate customer. Absolute worst, because he is so picky.
Yes, I am. But that's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
Yes.
It's a good thing for me. But in terms of working with realtors, it would be a nightmare. So I was already very familiar with the kinds of things that he was or was not going to go for, and the specific needs that we had. We were coming here with there were 5 of us at the time, because our oldest, she was coming to Mexico, but she wanted to bop around a little bit, but then come back to where we were, and then bop around some more and come back to where we were before she would actually settle on a place. And so when we got here to Querétaro, we spent some time that first month in some various Airbnbs just to get a flavor and a feel for what the neighborhoods were like. We had packed up everything, sold off a lot of the furniture and a lot of our belongings, but we had very specific needs that we needed. Lamar has a dedicated hobby space, as do I. We both needed office space because we were going to work from home. And so there were some very specific needs that we had, in addition to the dogs and the kids, that we were looking for. So when we got boots on ground, it really became about checking out the different neighborhoods, what we were getting a feel for. I pretty much knew this guy was not going to like living downtown in Centro. And so for us, I knew we were probably going to want to be on the outskirts or in a suburban kind of neighborhood, having a place for the dogs, a yard for the dogs was very important. The school issue was not quite a thing, because we knew that we would probably have to drive the kids to wherever that was. So it wasn't too much of an issue, but then ultimately our kids do a online school that's accredited back in the United States. So that worked out perfectly. Finding a house, now that was the challenge.
Well, yeah, but we had a very good real estate agent. She took us to many places. And we, as Angela would say, we kissed a lot of frogs.
We kissed some frogs. We detailed that in our,
kissed some frogs.
First House Hunter. We have another House Hunter series coming up, but we kissed a lot of frogs.
Yes. And got to this particular house that in a double gated neighborhood. And it was really nice. It was messy on the inside. So
well, before that, if we back up, one of the houses that we looked at in a neighborhood we thought was the bee's knees.
You're talking about the Beyonce summer home.
Our oldest daughter called that the Beyonce summer home, because that house was bad. It was,
8,000 square feet.
Woo! And the amount was lower, much lower than what we were paying back in the States for our home, much lower. So we were like, write her up. So one of the very first lessons that we learned by renting in Mexico was that owners there aren't the same way that you can approach an owner, in that they can decide what they want, how they want it. The streamlined process of renting that we appreciated back, or that we had been familiar with back in the United States, this was a whole new ball game, a whole new different type of experience. So in that very first rental, we had come in, we had checked out the house. Is this house available? Yes. Okay. Now this was prior to us showing up. We showed up and we're like, oh, well, let's write it up. And then suddenly it's, there are some other people that are coming to look at this place. We're like, okay, well, but
we would like to rent this house. Tell you what, we'll give you 6 months rent in advance.
Because if it's us being Americans that is worrying you, or that we're going to just take off and leave and not pay the rent like some other people have done, or that we've heard about, if that's what the worry is, then we're good. We're going to be here. And he still was like, well, no, well, we were like, well, what got me was he said, I don't need the money.
I
was like, Well, dang.
Right. I don't need the money. Okay.
Your beautiful 8,000 square foot house, you just
With the pool in the back, putting green, outdoor cooking space, outdoor living space, and
I
you
don't
don't.
need the money.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Must be nice.
Must be nice.
So
So that was the first thing that kind of rubbed me wrong about that experience. And he still then began to take too long, in my estimation.
yes, he took too long.
It took too long. We were coming from a situation in the United States with another house that we had rented that just went horribly wrong.
Right.
And I was gun shy. So if I detected any nonsense or tomfoolery, I was out.
Yeah.
And so from that moment, we kept the search on, looking
Right.
for other houses, and found the house that we eventually did rent.
Yes.
You want to tell
Okay,
about that?
so I have, before you get into that, a couple questions. Did you ever find out why he was a bit kind of aloof?
He said he decided that he was going to sell the house.
Right.
And
Okay.
as far as I know, it's
It's still vacant.
vacant
Never
on the
sold it.
market.
Still on the market. Never sold it.
Now,
Okay.
having sold luxury homes in the past, one thing that I know for sure, two things for certain, is in that particular bracket of people who can afford such a thing, they got options.
Right.
And so coming to your little house, that's already particulared the way you like it. If I've got millions of pesos to spend in my home choices, I got options.
Right.
So that's why I've noticed that there are a lot of homes that tend to stay on the market for what we would deem in the United States a long time because of that. Folks in that echelon tax bracket, they got options.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think it's not uncommon, and Anne Marie probably could back this up in just the years you've been here too. It's not uncommon for an affluent Mexican to not care if it's rented or not because it's already paid for versus houses and homes in the US where you have a mortgage typically and you're worried about paying bills every 30 days. I've seen that a lot where people are just, it's been sitting, it's a family home, it's paid for. So, and also I think that also contributes to the bad landlord scenarios as well, where they're like, well, we're going to pay a little bit to do this and that, but not too much. It all just depends on who you're dealing with. And that's kind of an example of that attitude. Yeah.
I often tell people that rich Mexican people are really rich. American people are rich on paper.
Yes.
Rich Mexican people are actually rich. That's
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They got more liquidity.
Yes.
And American rich people, they're not just rich on paper, they rich in the bank too.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
it's a different kind of attitude that you might run into.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, go ahead. I had a few other questions, but I'm going to let you continue with your story because initially I thought you ended up renting that space. So you continued to look. And now the second set of looking, were you physically already now in Querétaro?
Yes, we were physically for that house.
For the first set of looking, we were physically there.
Gotcha.
We had our realtor showed us one home, and that was the only home she actually showed us online, or at least virtually by phone. And then the rest was like, okay, I gotta see this space. I gotta sniff. I gotta scratch. I have to actually see what we're working with. And again, because we were so particular in the needs that we had with regard to Lamar races remote control. He builds and races remote control cars. And so he needed a very particular space that would accommodate his hobby equipment. I also have a commercial embroidery machine that I brought with me, all of my equipment that goes along with my crafting hobbies and things like that, which is part of my business back then. And so I brought all that with me because I plan to do those things here. And when we talk about life and life abundantly and having those types of creating a life that brings me happiness and joy, our hobbies were
Yes.
absolutely critical to that.
Sure.
So when we started looking and kept the looking going, we found this particular house that was vacant. It was a family home, like Lamar mentioned, in
Yes.
a double gated community in the area that we liked, and thought, okay, it was very quiet, very, in hindsight, it's a very,
the homes there are owned by CEOs, diplomats.
we didn't know that.
We didn't know that. Very wealthy people. As a matter of fact, when you walk around the neighborhood there, you look in a driveway, there may be 6, 7 cars, and there'll be,
Range
Rovers,
Porsches,
BMWs, and the large ones, not the small ones. I mean, and then the kids would have, all kinds of off-road vehicles and things like that. So
drivers and
right,
all the
drivers, right.
Yeah.
So very well off, very, as Marie said, I mean, rich Mexicans, not just on paper, they got money in the bank. They got plenty.
But the house that we were renting had been vacant. And so when we came into the house, it was a mess.
It's a mess.
It was a mess. It had been left neglected, but the house had good bones.
Right.
And I thought, I could do something with this. This is nice. And it was lower in terms of the rent than a lot of the other houses in the neighborhood. And that's what brought it in our price range.
Right.
That I was like, this is at the top of our budget, but for this amount of space.
And for the 5 people and the 2 dogs.
It
had a large yard.
It did.
Yes.
It did. It backed to a golf course or a former golf course.
Right.
Very lovely home, lots of space, all those kinds of things. And I thought at that time it would help facilitate a soft landing for our family as we were making this huge transition and just transitioning abruptly. So we contacted the landlord, and he seemed to be he was very responsive. He did ask for Juridica Polizza so that we could rent the place. We didn't have to have someone.
You want to tell them what that is?
Cosa. Oh, go ahead. Tell them.
What that is normally you would have to have someone vouch for you here if you've never rented.
A landowner.
Someone who owns property.
Yeah,
However, this particular thing is an insurance policy. Mm-hmm. Basically, they do a little bit of a background check on you, check you out a little bit, and you pay basically a fee that is paying into an insurance policy.
So it's like an insurance policy for the owner in case you decide to skip out or something happens with the rent.
And does the policy pay for the rest of your contract, or?
The policy is specific to that time period within that contract. So
if you left at 3 months, it pays the remaining months for your contract?
That's what I hear, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Because that was never our ministry.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm just curious because I have heard of it, but I think it's more common in other parts of Mexico in terms of bigger cities, and it's not as common here. I've never been asked for that, especially in the beginning. So that's why I wanted to get kind of a little definition.
Yeah. And most of the time they have companies that actually do all this stuff they collect for.
You're a little frozen.
Pay documentation. That was another thing that I realized as we were going around looking at different houses. Some persons wanted first and last month's rent as a deposit. There was somebody else who wanted 3 months rent. Somebody else who wanted 6 months rent. Right. It was all over the place. Someone wanted had a fee for if you had pets per pet. Some others was like, I don't care, you have pets, okay, that's cute. It was very much all over the scale in terms of what the owners were asking in terms of the rent.
Right.
And I'll comment on that because I do tell people this all the time because they'll ask questions that kind of are broader or generic. And I always tell people that it depends on the landlord, really and truly. They set the rules, they set the tone. And they can kind of, it's their property. They can kind of say and do whatever it is that they want. And is also the reason why I always tell people everything is negotiable as well, because you can talk to them about it. And I think that gives you a better vibe for what type of landlord that person might be. So if they're giving you kind of like difficulties at the beginning, you probably don't want to move there, even if you really love the space. You probably want to just keep looking, because they're probably not going to want to do things depending on the vibe that you get. So it's always good if you can have direct conversations with the owner or through someone who might be facilitating the language as well, just to, get a good vibe. Because technically, I feel like they kind of get away with a lot of things that really should be their responsibility.
Yeah.
And that's a good point too. Also, when you are looking for places, particularly if you're looking online, one of the stark differences that I noticed between the United States and Mexico is that in the United States, we have an MLS system. And normally a realtor has a contract with that seller that I am going to be the exclusive seller of your property. Not so in Mexico. You can have one property that is being advertised by all kinds of different realtors. So it's kind of sometimes hard to figure out who you're dealing with when you're having conversation. Like I saw one listing and thought, oh, okay, yeah, that's the guy I had a conversation with. And turns out, no, that was not the guy. That was another listing of that same property being offered for
because you'll
sale.
see it on the what is it called,
Some of the boards, some of the real estate boards.
It will the pictures of the same house. Didn't I just look at this house?
Right.
But it's different real estate agents, different people who are advertising this to possibly get the chance to
get the sale,
or get the lease commission, and that's how they operate here. But the house, as we moved in,
wait before we do that.
Yeah.
One of the other differences that we noticed when you come into a space, like we mentioned, the house was a mess.
Yes.
It was a mess. I mean, there was trash and dog poop on the floor. And the floor that hadn't been cleaned up. The house showed terribly. So by all, all points considered, we should probably not have rented the house. We would have probably come in and been like, oh, this is, is this how you want to show your house?
Dog poop, no, that's a bad landlord.
Right.
Because if you saw, and I'm saying it because, again, I think we come into living abroad with so much optimism, and we want to, and if your thing is, because I definitely love decorating, I love seeing good bones, I like to fix and do and all that other stuff. But I will say that if that's how they presented it to you, basically shit on a platter, that's probably what you're going to get for the duration. So, and I'm saying it, I'm just being frank for people who are looking or plan on looking, is, again, especially if you're renting, like if the landlord doesn't care enough to say, all right, let me, hire a cleaning person, it doesn't cost that much. Right. Even if they don't paint and do all the, the other things, but at the very least, a clean place. And when I say clean, I don't mean it has to be perfect and every little thing is touched up. That also, I just want to kind of point out, that could be a sign for you to keep it moving. Yeah.
And one of the reasons why the house was in somewhat of a mess is the previous tenant had lost the place and could not pay the rent anymore, and had left belongings there, had left stuff there. So the owner came in and we told him what needed to be fixed. They actually came in and painted, cleaned up, had all the items removed. There was a play set in the backyard
that we were like, no,
and that got taken away. So it took them about maybe 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, it was very quick. They came in and very quickly did that. Now, one of the other differences with renting, I've noticed the difference. It reminded me of the walkthrough that you do prior to buying a house. That these are, when you're buying a house and you are about to put a contract on a house, you're going through and you're looking at the roof, you're looking at the plumbing, you're looking at all kinds of things that need to be fixed, and you literally are sitting there with your list, like, okay, I would like the following things fixed, this, and you're kicking tires and all that kind of stuff. They do that similarly here in Mexico. That's been our experience, that we've had were able to compile lists of all the things that needed to be fixed prior to us coming in to actually take possession and rent
And
the
you
home.
have only 30 days to get that done.
After
Yes.
taking
To
possession,
possession.
to go,
Exactly.
this was not, where
Right.
was that?
Right.
This is
Yeah.
not fixed, you know,
And it all
And
depends again on the landlord, how much
Right.
of
the
a
landlord.
stickler. So you can have things written into your contract as well, just to kind of hopefully protect yourself a little bit.
Can I,
So
can I just
I'll
say one
go ahead, Emery.
that what I would say is that based on my experience, it's very, I mean, I'm a lawyer, so I think about a lot of these things a little bit differently. If it's not written down, it doesn't exist. These are words that I live by, right? And so I don't feel I had a lot of the issues that other people have told me they had here because I conducted myself the same way I would have in America. And so I treated the transaction the same way, even though I did it quickly. I got a lawyer. Michelle knows because I called and I found a lawyer and I went to Guanajuato and I met with that lawyer and it helped me a lot because I was also a lawyer. He told me a lot of things about renting and what I needed to look out for and made sure that my lease that I presented to him, he explained to me why it wasn't a legal lease in Mexico because the landlord was American, right? And so they had written up a lease that was not enforceable in Mexico, that if something had happened, it would not have been enforceable. So he explained to me everything that needed to be in a lease for it to be enforceable in that state, in Guanajuato. So I made sure that the lease was revised and written in Spanish. And, I'm lucky enough to have a sister who speaks, writes, and reads Spanish like a Spanish speaker and is also a realtor. So I had her look at the lease agreement as well to make sure the words meant what they were supposed to mean. But I treated it like a business transaction because that's what it is. It's not happy feelings and hearts and flowers. It doesn't
right.
matter how much you
Right.
like the landlord or how nice they are or not nice. But you have to pay attention to whether they're open to whatever you ask for and whether they give you a lot of pushback. But in San Miguel in particular, you have to be careful because there are a lot of landowners and homeowners here who are not Mexican, who are American, and they draw up things as if it's in America and it's not. And you want to know that if something goes wrong, you can drag their asses into Mexican court too
Sure.
and get what you need. Because my thing is, I'll sue you in Mexico and America if you're, because I know how to do both things, right? But it's important to know and to read those things. And as she said, to walk through the property. And if there are things that you want done, that you make sure it's in writing and it's
In writing.
and don't give nobody no money until.
That part.
Right.
And that's where people go wrong a lot. And my thing is, would you do that in America? You wouldn't. So why are you over here throwing money around like you're a drug dealer? Don't do
Right.
that, right?
Right.
So it's like ask that everything be in writing and make sure everything is written down. I have not really had a lot of issues here because of that, I believe.
Yeah.
And I have a Mexican landlord now, and I absolutely adore him, right? But I made sure stuff was written down. And when we were negotiating, he knew we were negotiating because I acted like we were negotiating.
Yeah.
Right.
And like, yes, no, no, no. And you got to be ready to walk away.
And
No matter
you might be renting from
you
the
have to be willing
sweetest
to say,
abuela.
and I just was like, well, if we can't do it this way, oh, well, I guess we'll keep looking, I said to my realtor. And then they huddled and talked. She talked to his agent, whatever, because it was me, his agent, and my agent, right? And then he was like, okay, right? But you have to treat it, it's a business transaction. You have to treat it like a business transaction. You have to ask questions, and get it reviewed. My big thing was I wanted a lawyer to look at it. I had never been in Mexico before. I had never done a transaction before. So even though I was here for a good time, but not a long time, and I found a place accidentally, I really didn't come to find a place, but I made the time to go all the way to Guanajuato and meet this lawyer with the lease in hand. And that's when he looked at it. He was like, well, this is not even in Spanish. It's not enforceable. Then he looked at certain clauses. He's like, that's not enforceable. This needs to be worded this way, right? And so I paid him, and it was coin well spent to have him revise the agreement for me. So, and I presented it to them that this is the agreement I want executed. And it was in Spanish and English, but the Spanish version is what was executed. And that's important.
Yeah,
So-
because by law, you
Yeah, it
can't
has to
sue
be
them
in
unless
Spanish.
it's in Spanish.
Yeah.
In Spanish. Right.
And I mean, I came from a background where I did international worked. So I knew I had an inkling that it shouldn't be in English, right? Because generally speaking, and in any country, that's the rule. Why would you expect to go to Latvia and have a contract executed in English? Sometimes
Or
you
in America and have it in Chinese.
right, you can have the English on one side. I used to execute these kinds of agreements. You have the English on one side, the local language on the other. But the side that is legal and executed is normally, if you don't do both, you always execute the side that's in the other language. So you got to make sure that the translations are correct. So, which was where my wonderful sister came in handy because she read every single thing line by line and made sure that it meant exactly what the English said and vice versa. But don't go into anything blind because I always say here, Mexican people are lovely. They're some of the nicest people I've met in the world. And I've been to over 44 countries at this point. But they'll smile at you and also take advantage of you.
Yeah.
Sure.
So don't think that just because they're lovely, money is money everywhere. Capitalism is capitalism everywhere. So don't think that people won't play with you if you let them. So don't come down here and be so enamored that you stop thinking about what you're doing and you're just spending money because it is real money also, by the way. It's not monopoly money. It's real money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So one of the things I wanted to say in addition to that is if you don't have a sister who speaks great Spanish, hire a translator, a certified translator, and I've done that as well. All contracts, I will give it to Anna, who does translations, and or someone locally. There are several people in San Miguel, and you can find people in other parts of Mexico who can take that contract and basically look at it in Spanish. Let's say it's coming from a Mexican landlord. They'll look at it, look over it. They should know a bit about the law, and they can tell you whatever it is, and they can translate it to English. So it's a certified version of what they gave you, and there's nothing, slipped in that you don't understand, and all the things. And I think it's worth spending the money on that. It might cost you 1,000 pesos, which is like $60, $70, $100 even. It can save it can save you a lot of headaches. Exactly.
And also because that person works for you. You're hiring them.
Exactly.
They are more likely to look out for you because you're paying them. You have to be really careful to understand who's working for who, right? Because as Angela said, the way that realtors work here is different. So it can also get more confusing and you have to ask questions.
Right.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I can't emphasize more enough. Don't let the sweet face fool you. You might be dealing with the most lovely, just sweetest, just abuela ever, but and who will say, yes, of course, we'll fix that. It'll fix that. But if it's not in writing,
it never happened.
Right. And so make sure those things in writing. And we were very fortunate on our first time out and in terms of renting to make sure all of the things that we had asked for were in writing. We were not taking possession until all those things that you said you were going to fix were fixed. And he did. He fixed all of those things.
And one other thing I would add, not only that, but also make sure you're very clear, because this, again, is not like in the US. Who's responsible for fixing what? Don't assume that everything is responsible. Read the agreement, because I had an agreement that said that I was responsible, and I made sure it got changed to say they were responsible, and then listed and itemized everything that they are responsible for. If it goes bad, from the refrigerator to the washer and dryer to the store, I listed every single thing because I don't want any confusion. I don't want.
That's a good point too. That's a really good point.
Don't assume that it's just like it is in the US, because I was once a landlord myself in the US. So it's make sure that you understood. So those are things that I asked about. And so it was explained to me, make them list every single thing. Don't assume they're going to responsible for fixing. And then I was reading and I was like, wait, the way this is worded, it sounds like I'm responsible. I'm not going to be responsible for this. So I went back and asked for the language to be more explicit so that it was very, very clear that I'm not fixing a damn thing up in here, right?
I'm going to get you to write all my future contracts.
Some of the structural things that were in our contract, then that very first home, were some of the major things, but appliances, that's not always a given.
Right.
That is not always a given that you'll have a washer and dryer, a refrigerator,
a stove.
A stove,
right.
A lot of the things that
and even if you come in and see it, you need to ask, are these
Is this
things
coming with?
in the
Right.
property? Is this coming with
Right.
it? And make sure
Right.
it's in the lease, that you're leasing the space with the following things and list them
Right.
Because
in English and Spanish.
Yes.
right. In some cases, they consider appliances like furniture. So
Mhm.
washer, dryer, refrigerator, not the microwave, but a stove and things like that. So you come into a house, there may not be any appliances there, and you're expected to provide your
Like,
own.
wait, there was appliances here when I came to
When
see
I
it,
saw it and now it's not.
but now there are no
Right.
appliances. We know that.
Because they belong to the previous tenant.
Right.
So
Right.
those went with them. So you have to provide your
Or
own.
it could be that the place was vacant and the tenant or the owner had appliances in there, but was planning to take their appliances
They
out
don't.
when you come. So you
Right.
need to make sure those things are in writing in your contract, unless you plan to bring your own.
Right.
And
And
for us, the house
yeah.
that we were renting,
Mhm.
like I said, it was a rather large house. If you haven't seen, check out our house hunters tour. It's the Regal Regency.
That's the house.
That's the name of that tour of the house that we actually wound up getting. But that house, one of the reasons that we picked it was because it had a main house, and then it also had a casita kind of
And it was
attached to it.
Yes.
So the connection piece was an office that connected the main house from the other side, the whole side, which was an actual apartment. And the owner had shared with us that they had bought this property or bought the land and had this house built. The wife was an architect, and she had these dreams of having a home for her and her family and a place for her mother to be connected right beside them. And she had this big, beautiful house built, and the mother was like, no. So now they have this property that they never really got to, or they lived in, but they didn't really need anymore because they're living in Guanajuato.
Right, because their two daughters grew and were grown
off on their own.
So you had this house with 6 full baths, 4
bedrooms.
4 bedrooms.
Well, if you include the maid's quarters. And the other room, yeah.
2 full kitchens. The casita that's attached had a full kitchen. And it was good for us because eventually what happened was for a short time there we used it for an Airbnb.
Right. And we checked with the owner and made sure that was okay. And again, the house had great bones. So we were able to go in and paint and do a lot of things and make some changes cosmetically, that it wasn't too far gone. Lamar is a former system administrator with the government with NSA type level proficiency. So he wound up wiring the house from the rooter to the tutor to make it a smart home. So all of our bedrooms had actual plug-in Ethernet connections for our smart televisions, Wi-Fi double mesh type system all throughout the house. It was fantastic. So we were able to bring value to his home. So that house was lovely. It was great. It was fantastic. And then we had a year lease there. And at the end of the year lease, our son was about to graduate.
And the oldest had moved to Mexico.
Our oldest had already moved to Mexico City. She had fell in love with Mexico City. And so she moved to Mexico City. Our son was about to leave off for college. So it was just going to be me, Lamar, and our daughter, who was right behind our son.
Right.
So we thought, maybe this is definitely
too
much house for just the two of us eventually.
Right.
Maybe we want to talk about downsizing. Now, Lamar hates to move with a capital H. And so I had kind of thought, we had gone over to our neighbors, the next door neighbor. They were having this big, fabulous shindig at their house.
Right.
And that's where we learned that, the owner used to rent the house separately from the mother-in-law casita suite type thing. Oh, really? Now, that might work if he would let us just rent the main house and take the casita part on the apartment onto himself and rent that off.
Right.
That would be actually great. And at that time, the dollar fluctuation was going up and down and going up sometimes or dropping rapidly. And we just kind of wanted to be like, okay, well, we want to maybe find out if there are other, if we can lower our rent expenses
Right.
or what have you. Or, maybe we'll keep
And
the
our agent
Airbnb because it stayed booked and busy.
suggested that negotiate with them, talk to them about it.
Right. Here's the main thing. In our lease agreement, and apparently this is popular in Mexico, or I've seen it a lot, where they have an automatic increase built into your lease, so that at the end of the lease time, the owner has the right to raise your rent just because.
To whatever, right.
Right, and just because. And it's not supposed to be to whatever.
Yeah.
But just the fact that they were raising the rent was like, am I getting another house?
Right.
Am I getting something else in return? So our realtor just suggested, well, negotiate, because you can ask him to say no. One of the things that our landlord asked us to do was to pay in cash every month. We did not, at first we were like, in cash, okay.
Right.
Now, why he was doing that?
Because he doesn't want to pay taxes on that.
Right.
Bing, bing,
That's
bing,
why.
bing,
Yeah.
bing, bing.
So
So that
before
was
you-
getting on our
before-
nerves a little bit. That was getting on our nerves a
So
little
we
bit, because
finally
we
got
would have to do all these machinations in order to transfer
Yeah,
the
that's
money.
too much. I get it.
I said
know.
no every day that. I've been
Yeah.
asked that too, and I simply said no. I simply said I wouldn't do it, and that we wouldn't have an agreement if that was the requirement. And immediately it was reversed, because I was like, I'm not going to do it, because I travel too much. And first of all, I want a paper trail. I want one as wide as the ocean if possible. I want a paper trail.
Now,
And
the fortunate thing
in
about
Guanajuato, there's
Okay.
also a requirement about receipts. There's very
Yes.
specificity
Yes, we
about that.
have receipts. We have
Yes,
receipts.
yes,
getting
and that was a
receipts
part of our
as
Polizza
well.
Jurídica, to
Yeah.
have those promissory notes. We had 12 promissory notes, one for each month, that we had already signed.
Right.
And as we paid our rent, they gave us the promissory note back.
Right.
So at the end of the rental agreement, he has none of the promissory notes back in his possession to be able to say, well, see, she didn't pay the rent.
Right.
And all of those kinds of things. So that we were very, very adamant to make sure, where's my promissory note? Where is our receipt?
Halfway through this, we actually started paying, electronically to him. However, when we wanted to negotiate, and we asked, could we talk about this? We asked that he and his wife could come and speak with us. And so he came, but he brought his youngest daughter.
Didn't bring the wife, which we thought, okay, that's not what we asked. We asked for the wife, because we know it's y'all are a team,
Right.
and y'all are both going to have to make this decision. And we would like to know what's going on first. Let's have this conversation. So we brought them over, and they sat down, and he was, first of all, three things stood out to me about that meeting. First, every time he would come over to the house, Lamar, he would say to Lamar, "Oh, this is your house."
Yes.
And Lamar hated that.
Yeah, because
Hated that
it's kind of like a Jedi mind trick. And I'm like, no, it's your house.
This is your house.
This is your house. It's not my house.
But he would always, oh, wow, I love what you guys have done with the place. I love what you've done with the place, right? So when he came to have the conversation about that we wanted to have with him about you possibly taking the Airbnb side of the property and renting that,
right, to someone else,
and we just keep the main side, he was like, oh, well, we actually wanted to talk to you about that, because we love what you've done. We'd actually like to, or thinking about moving back from Guanajuato here, and would like to stay in the Airbnb side of the property. And we thought,
okay, that's kind of weird.
Okay, to have your
landlord next door.
So your landlord's living in your
all
house.
your stuff in there too. Just leave all your stuff, all your artwork, and just leave it just like that. We love it.
Right. And he said
Red flag.
Take the office that connected, which was where my stuff was. I was like,
that was the deal breaker.
I was like, whoa, time out.
The office that connected to
red flag,
which is where we were like, we might be able to work with, okay, you could take the apartment, which is kind of like, okay, weird. But because it literally was had a separate entrance, separate lock, separate key. Everything was separate utilities, all of that kind of thing, which was kind of weird. But when he wanted to have the office that connected the two, we were like, okay, that's not going to work.
So he said he wanted to discuss it with his wife, which he should have brought his wife with him instead of bringing his youngest daughter.
But that wasn't the key.
He picked up his phone while we were talking to him.
And he says, well, so we were thinking, well, how about, we're talking about and negotiating with him. And he picks up his phone. He goes, well, I'm looking at other listings here in the neighborhood, and I'm seeing other people they're renting their house for like 90,000 pesos
a month.
85,000 pesos. We were like, what that got to do with us?
Right.
Because that is.
Wait, was this while you were still in the contract with the current contract?
Yes.
And how many months in was that?
This was at the end of the lease. We were negotiating to renew the
10
lease.
or 11, we were
at month 10.
10.
Right. We were negotiating to renew the lease.
Right.
And we were like, okay, well, what's that got to do with the price of tea in China?
Because he wants to make money now.
Right. So we're getting rid of part of the house that we were leasing before, and you want more money?
He wants more money because he's trying to squeeze you out. That's
it. We were like, what? Now, the interesting thing to note as he was scrolling on his phone is those houses in the neighborhood that are for 90,000 pesos, they've been on the market.
And vacant long time. And vacant.
Ain't nobody coming over there for them. So
right. Exactly.
All right. Well, I'm going to let Anne-Marie tell her a story, because I know that you've also moved a few times. And then we'll come back to it because I want to know what happened. So, can you also give us some of I know you did the steps that were necessary. Definitely a few comments in the chat about they should have hired you to use them. Diane mentioned her landlord and the current situation, well, a recent, I should say, situation she also had as well and was able to get out of it with an attorney. So just, letting people know, like, these things are real, like these situations are real. And, and as, again, it seems friendly, it seems like a lot of things, but then there's always going to be, I think, over the friendliness, the opportunistic approach to everything, because like you said, money is money. So tell us a little bit about your experiences as well, Anne-Marie.
Well, I think the rental process in San Miguel is very different from Querétaro, even though Querétaro is only like an hour away from here. In that, and I think a lot of that is colored by the fact that there are a lot of American and Canadian property owners here, as well as Mexican property owners. And there are a lot of property owners here who are Mexican and own property here, but they don't live here, right? And those are all things you want to also find out. So my first two places the first place I lived was American, and this was very instructive for me. I was very careful about the lease. So the lease was very clear. But one of the things that I did, which I don't recommend, and I never did again, was when I initially moved into that property, there weren't any ceiling fans. And, those of us who are perimenopausal and so on, we know that could be a problem. So I asked if I could put ceiling fans into the property because I was very concerned about how hot it would be in the property and so on. And I did that. I don't recommend that in the future. I wouldn't do that, and I wouldn't recommend. Whatever you want, you make them do it, or you don't have it done, right? Because then when you leave, that I agreed to let the fans stay there, right? And that was in the lease. And I think that I would have liked to take those fans with me, because here's what happened. And this is American owner. So I just want to be clear. So, because I don't want people to feel that you only gonna have problems with a Mexican landlord. You got to watch out for the Americans at all times. You got to watch out for them all the time. So this person, I initially leased the property during COVID. So it was COVID, a lot of people had left town, people weren't renting. So I got this place and it was beautiful for a pretty low amount of money because it was COVID. But I only leased it initially for about, I think it was 6 months, 6 or 7 months initially, because I wanted to be sure Not just that I liked the house, but that I would enjoy living in San Miguel. And I think that was a good decision. So when I decided I liked it, I liked the house, I asked her to extend the lease, and the person asked for an increase. That was my first inkling. But it wasn't a big increase. It was a very pretty small one. So I said, okay, but I only extended it for maybe another 8 months, for maybe a little bit over a year. But when it was up, that's when they tried to get a really huge increase. And I said no, right? And so I went and found another place in a different neighborhood. One of my key requirements has always been that I want to be no more, less than 12 to 15 minutes walking into Centro. And at the time I was maybe 7 or 8 minutes. Then I moved about a 12-minute walk away. And now I live what feels like further, but it's still a 12-minute walk, right? The second place was fine. I really didn't have any problems. The landlords were American. The place was amazing, but the neighborhood was very noisy. And for what I do, and these are all things that are part of living in Mexico. It was very noisy. There was a dog next door that was left out on the roof almost 24 hours a day, and he would bark all the time. And especially in the winter months, it could get really bad. And it wasn't really bad for me, but for people who would visit me, they would tell me because their rooms were closer to where the rooftop was, so they could hear the dog going. And it was, but during the day, sometimes it was a pain for working, for recording, for talking to clients, things like that. So I decided to move to the place that I live now. The other thing was that I think when you initially move somewhere, and Lamar and Angela just talked about this, you know, it's Mexico. You get a lot for your money here in terms of properties. And so had this big house, and it was huge and it was nice. It was, I mean, it wasn't massive, but it was a pretty big for one person and a little toy poodle, right? My toy poodle and me. And so I went to another place, and that place was big, and it had a hot tub and a beautiful rooftop and a view, which is my requirement pretty much everywhere I want a view. But it was way bigger than what I needed. So the next time I decided to move, and I think that's a thing that you have to also think about. Just because you can afford it doesn't mean you need to pay for it. Because in the end, it is all still real money, right? And so in addition to making sure everything is in writing, as I said, making sure that you've read everything carefully and that you understand everything, right? Making sure that you have clarity about what comes with the place. Don't make any assumptions about anything. So just don't assume that anything is exactly like in America. I think the biggest problem that immigrants make coming to Mexico, as well as traveling, is this belief that America is the best and everything must be like America. We should be very clear at this point that America is not the best, but still we cling, many of us, to these ideas that everything has to be like American. If it's not, there's something wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it, but it is different. So you have to make sure you understand how things work here. Find a Michelle if you can. Ask her questions. Michelle also put me on to another person who had lived here who was very helpful in terms of me asking her basic questions and then talking to lawyers. And I made sure I hired a Mexican realtor, and I asked them a lot of questions about just generally what the market was like. This was when I was looking for the second place, right? And so it gave me a better sense of what to look for and what to expect. Because again, even though the landlords were Americans, you have to walk through, you have to look at things, you have to make sure that you're okay with things. If you don't like something, where there were things that I didn't like, I made sure that they fixed it. For example, when I went to do the walkthrough with the realtor, we realized that the person that they had hired, they told me there was a person that was taking care of the property because they had never lived in the property. They had visited from time to time, never lived there. They were paying someone who was supposed to be coming and cleaning the property and keeping it up. Apparently, this person was getting paid, but they weren't doing a whole lot of cleaning. So when I showed up with the realtor to do the walkthrough, they were dead roaches everywhere, right? And the realtor was just very upset. And, you know, I don't speak Spanish perfectly, but I understand it really, really well. And he was really mad. And the person, of course, who was supposed to be cleaning had just shown up shortly before we arrived and was trying to clean, but wasn't able to get to all the places, you know? And so the thing was, I didn't get upset about it. I just basically told him, when I move in, none of this stuff better be here. And I sent a message to the landlords, made them aware very nicely. But also, because I wasn't just thinking about the dead roaches, I was thinking about how did the roaches get in? So I looked at
Right.
the doors and I told them I want door guards installed on all of the doors on both sides. And I asked for certain things and they did those things, right? So, but you have to like pay attention, turn on all the faucets, check the
Yeah.
Yeah.
water pressure, check everything that you care, and like everything, like go room to room and check all the things, look under the beds, check things to make sure that everything is working, because water pressure can be an issue in Mexico. It's not like always in America. So you have to check those things. And as Lamar and Angela said, excuse me, itemize those things and ask that they be addressed in writing and include them in the lease and have clarity about who's fixing what and who's responsible for what, and things that you see that you like. Is that microwave? It looks great. Is it going to be here? They had a dishwasher. It was a great house, the second house. It had all the things. They had gourmet pots and pans. It was wonderful, right? Hot tub that they were always fussing about because I never used it. They're like, are you using the hot tub? I'm going to use it. But it was very nice. But it's like all of those things, I wanted to be clear about who's going to fix the hot tub if something go wrong with it. Who's going to, you know what I'm saying? And all of that stuff was in the lease, that they had someone who came and he would check the hot tub. He would clean it. He would fix it. He would do whatever. And so all of those things are important. When I moved here, this was my first Mexican landlord. And I can honestly say so far, it's the best experience in terms of my landlords. Because he lives right next door.
Now, Marie, have you been renting furnished or unfurnished?
All furnished.
Furnished.
And it's furnished. All of the places I've rented have been fully furnished. But one thing I want to say is Mexican furnished and American furnished are not the same.
Yeah.
Not a criticism. They're just not the same, because what we as Americans expect and what they think of as furnished. And I learned that from just being in Airbnbs in Mexico, right? That they're not the same thing. So you have to temper your expectations for that. Luckily, I brought my favorite pots and pans and things like that with me to Mexico. I bought my favorite baking dishes, my favorite utensils. I tend to just package up other people's things, put them away, and use my own stuff because I don't want to eat with other people's forks and spoons and knives. That's just my thing. Right. I bring my forks and spoons and knives because I don't want to use somebody else's. So those are all things to think about, right? But I put all the stuff in the kitchen away, and I have my own things, but like microwaves and the coffee pot, even though he bought me a new one when I asked for it. Those things are important. But for me, the main thing is that my landlord, if something is not working and I ask him to fix it, he fixes it. And he doesn't take a long time to fix it. And that's important. Because
another important thing,
not the case with everybody that lives here. But I've been very lucky. I mean, one night I got here and the door wasn't closing properly because it's solid wood and, wood expands. That man came over here with a tool belt at 11 o'clock. And fix the door. And that's when I was like, I got a good landlord.
Yeah. Another thing to check, make sure about.
Yeah, he came,
toilet.
Fixed it, right? And so I think that also not being an ugly American helps.
Yes.
My sister was here recently, and as I said, she speaks Spanish really well. And she was listening to me write a message to my landlord. And she was like, I've never heard you be so nice to somebody, because she knows me well. And I said, well, Mexicans are very formal, right? And the way that they communicate, especially in writing, is very different. And so I pay attention to the way that they communicate with me, and I communicate the same way. So it's always good morning, how are you? I hope I'm not bothering you before I ask for anything.
Right.
I'm always super, super polite. And I try not to be rude. I always say hello. I always speak. And I always try to write my messages in Spanish. Right? My landlord speaks perfect English, but I still try to communicate as much as possible in Spanish. Sure. And so people appreciate things like that. And so they will deal with you the way that you deal with them. And so you ask for things nicely. You say hello. You say good morning. You say good afternoon. These are things in Mexico. Buenos dias and buenas tardes and buenas noches are not the same thing. And so you have to know how to treat people and how to talk to people in order to get things, because people will smile at you and be nice and ignore you if they feel that you're being rude. So how you deal with people does matter, but I think it's just really important to treat these transactions like business transactions. You can be polite and still say no to somebody. You can be polite and be like, I'm so sorry, but I'm not going to be able to sign it if you can't make that change for me. I really want to live here, but I just can't do it. One of my favorite Mexican phrases is, it's not possible. They will tell you, they won't tell you no. They'll say it's not possible. I love to say it's not possible. I'm just not going to be able to do it. It's just not going to be possible. I really want to do it, but I can't do it if it's not in writing. So it's not possible. But you're
Right.
still polite and you smile and you give them the little shoulder shrug that they like to give to us. And you do the same thing. But you have to treat it like business because it is business. And you can't be so enamored with being in Mexico and all this stuff that you forget that you got to treat stuff like a business and ask people who know for advice. One of the worst things that happened to me when I got here was I brought a Sony Bravia. Michelle, you know I'm going to talk about this because I still think about that TV every day. I brought a Sony Bravia 40-something inch television with me. I had just bought it for myself the Black Friday before I moved here. My dumb behind, because I completely blame myself, instead of asking Michelle for a handyman or anybody else, I hired someone that someone recommended in a Facebook group. Please don't do that. That man broke my damn TV
Oh,
Mm.
wow.
and gave me the Mexican shoulder shrug and said that it was already broken.
No.
And it was my fault because, first of all, I didn't stand there and watch him put the TV because, I'm in Mexico. I'm sure they'll put it up properly. Right? And broke my TV. I think about that TV every day. It had the best picture of a TV I've ever seen, ever. And I can't get another one like that here without paying twice what I paid for it in the United States.
True.
So
Yeah.
now my high sense that every time I look at it, I think about my Sony Bravia that got broken first week that I was in Mexico. So what my lesson in that is, trust but verify, and don't get people from Facebook, and don't let nobody handle anything that matters to you without standing like, now I'm like this. Every
Me
time
too.
I'm standing right behind them, watching them do it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
So,
leave the room till it's up on the wall and I have turned it on and made sure that it's
That it's
working and it's
working,
not broken.
right.
So
that
and,
was my lesson. And it was a very expensive lesson, a very painful lesson.
yes. So I brought all my tools with me. So any television
And our
that-
TVs.
and our TVs. So the TV that's hanging in her craft room, I put it up. The cabinets in her craft room, I put them up. We didn't have a handyman come and put them up. I brought all of my tools with me to Mexico. So it's rare that we would have to call somebody for fixing or putting something like that up.
Yeah, we've had to have.
For those of us who don't have a Lamar and you have to go find a handyman, get someone, because the first thing my company, the first place I lived was really day-to-day managed by a company, a managed property management company. And when I was telling the person what happened, she was so upset about it because she was like, why didn't you tell me? Because she was like, I would have got you somebody and we would have vouched for the person.
Right.
So
Right.
if they broke it, they would have been responsible because we hired them, right?
Right.
And my lesson was to never use anyone that no one I personally knew or could rely on to do something. Do not go in by a Facebook group.
Yeah.
And I should have just asked Michelle. Michelle gave me the last person. I still stood and watched him do it, but he did an excellent job. And Michelle, it was someone Michelle had used, right? And so find someone that is trustworthy and make sure that I keep an eye on whatever it is that is supposed to be done. And don't just think because somebody in a Facebook group said, because what you will learn is lots of people in the Facebook group are people looking for work and whatever in those Facebook groups, and they will raise their hands and say and recommend their cousin and their uncle and their auntie, just like anywhere else.
Right.
And these people are not their uncle and auntie is not properly vetted, right?
Well, they're looking for work for a reason because they probably don't know what they're doing. And a lot of people are jack of all trades, and they'll
And
say,
ask them,
Right.
right. And also, I have to say this in fairness too, there are a lot of amazing handymen, electricians, all the things. So it's always good, like Anne-Marie said, if you ask someone that you kind of know and or ask your realtor, etc. Someone asked a question earlier about using a realtor. I'm sorry if I made kind of like a frown about that, because do you recommend dealing with a realtor while there? I'm not really sure what you mean by that, but I think we're all saying it's a good idea to probably work with a reputable realtor. Again, let it be a referral versus just finding a Facebook person, because
Right.
in Mexico, most of the realtors, if not all, they're not required to meet like certain standards, to renew certificates, to learn
Right.
about licensing and all that stuff. They can just kind of, start
Anybody.
selling homes and showing houses if they have access somewhere along the way. And so it's a very different process here. And it's always good to get someone who's been referred and has just kind of a good track record in general. Now, doesn't mean that all of their experiences have been positive. Sometimes people just rub each other the wrong way. That does happen. But a lot of the people and individuals that I work with, I refer them for different reasons. It all depends on, is someone buying a very expensive house, then I kind of have individuals that I think, okay, they're going to really cater to this person's needs. And then someone who's looking for a nice rental, okay, they're going to cater to this person's needs and they're going to listen. And sometimes more than one. It's not just always the same individual. It just kind of all depends. And then there are some who just, I'm on a budget, I don't have a lot, and I know they're these individuals who are still going to be pretty, in the know, trustworthy. And then I'll also tell people like, okay, if you can't really afford to do that route, check on the Facebook pages that are all about rentals, but then go ahead and get an attorney to, you got to invest in that. You have to invest, because if you don't invest in the money you're spending, you're going to lose it. You're probably going to lose some of it, if not a lot of it. And that can be very annoying. Plus your time. You just can't get your time back,
Right.
And it's a lot. I mean, I'm going to get back to your story because I want to hear kind of what happened with your landlord trying to move in. Move in with you. That's like so crazy to me. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I could have kept my face straight because you were kind of like, well, was he trying to? I would have been like, what? But anyway, what I wanted to say is that, like trying to do all these things in a shorter period of time in terms of moving, right? We think, oh, 1 year. It's like down in the future. That year goes by so fast, right? And like you said, you hate moving. I also realized that too. I don't want to keep moving because I do put a lot of work in, whether it is ceiling fans. I'm taking my ceiling fans with me. I don't care. We're not even, okay, this isn't advice, but I'm going to just tell you how my mindset is. I'm going to put in the things I need. I'm not asking you. I'm just going to take your stuff down. I'm going to put it off to the side. And when I leave, I'll put it back. I'll put it back up. But I'm taking my stuff with me because it wasn't there, unless it's something that I just don't need. A place I rented in Zirandero several years ago, I moved in and it was a very cookie cutter place. I liked it enough, but a very cookie cutter development. And, they had cheesy lamps and all these things and some things that didn't work. Going back to that first 30 days of making sure you do the whole checklist and things, there were light switches that, I had to really press them for the light to come on and things like that. And same, I needed ceiling fans. I wanted them, so I put a bunch in. I think I put 6 or 7 ceiling fans in, and I took all the lamps down. And when I left, I put them all back up, But that 1 year of time goes by so fast, because moving abroad, it takes more than it does in the US, moving from one house to the other, to settle in, to get the hang of things, to fix it, to make it your home, to make it feel whatever. Sometimes it just takes longer than a year, especially if you're coming with children. I mean, it's just a long process. And these are things, we just learn, right? You learned that in your first year because you just went through it, right? So tell me a little more about your landlord trying to move back in and put you in the guest house.
Well, when that kind of
and wait and enjoy your art and all your stuff.
right, all of our stuff, just leave all of our stuff and just
furniture, everything.
furniture, books,
Right.
I was like, that's kind of it weirded me out. That was the first thing. The second thing, it annoyed me when he was scrolling, going, oh, they charged, and that pissed me off on the second tip. But then the third thing was, he said, well, I'm gonna go back. I have to go talk to my wife and see what she says.
She should have been there.
She should have been there like we asked, but
Right.
okay, I'm going to see what she says. And we'll get back to you. I'll let you know. So a day passed, 2 days, 3 days. And so we checked in. Hey, we kind of wanted to find out what's the deal, because if the answer is no, then I need to know so I can
Make some moves.
Right.
get him prepared, get the family prepared, go ahead and take down stuff and get
But
ready.
what that did was it actually prepared me because it pissed me off.
Well, what happened was he left me unread.
Right. Unread.
He left me unread in our messages. And that's a no.
Yeah.
That's a no.
Interesting.
You don't leave me unread.
Yes.
Ask the brothers back in the day. Yeah, you don't leave me unread. So at that point in time, I just happened to hear from another expat that was in our vicinity that was telling us that a lot of the family homes the rentals for the family homes are decreasing. And so you guys might want to check it out and see if you can find something else. Well, you don't have to tell me twice. And so I immediately put back on my realtor hat and started going through the listings and, found a whole bunch of other stuff that was much lower in price. And some of them not too smaller or what have you, that would, that we would just all of a sudden be living on top of each other, but at the same time, gave us what we were looking for. And so by the end of that week, I had already gone out and found another property, the one that we're in now. It was a new home. It had only had one renter in it. The owner is Mexican, but he was living in the United States and he was renting the property out and wanted to have a 2-year lease with no increase at the time of renewal and an option to buy. Like I said, the house was perfect. It gave me all the things that we were looking for. Gave us all of the the modern luxuries in the neighborhood that is right down the street from his racing track that he races his remote control cars. So that was a huge plus. And I asked the owner or the agent when I went and met with him, I didn't go with another realtor. I went on my own because by this time I felt confident enough that I can do this myself. So I went and met with the realtor, went through the whole contract. Can we move in because the house was vacant? Can we take possession in 30 days? Can we get this popping? Yes. Can we do this? Yes. Here's your deposit. Let's go. Let's make this happen. So by the time the owner circled back around to asking us,
you had already stripped the house down naked.
That's okay. No, that's okay.
We're moving.
We're going to move. And he was, but maybe I can give you what you were asking for, and maybe we can get
no, it's okay.
Thank
you though. You've been very nice to us.
I'm so glad we had this time together. But we're out.
Right.
And so we had a company come in, pack us up, and we were out.
Good for you. Go ahead, Anne-Marie.
Can I say one thing? I will say that I do feel culturally, this is another American thing that we have to realize is very different here. Time is very more fluid.
Yeah, it is.
So you have to, when you ask for things, it's more fluid here. That's one thing I found, even with my landlord, is that you have to, ask more than once often in order. So for example, when I was renew my lease here and I spoke with my landlord about it and he was like, sure, he would love for you to stay. You stay as long as you want. Okay, well, I'm going to need a new lease, right? I need a new lease. Oh, sure, I'll send you one, right? A week goes by, 2 weeks goes by, 30 days goes by. I'm getting ready to travel. And by the time I get back, it's going to be high season in San Miguel. And if you know anything about high season in San Miguel, all the rental property spaces are going to go up.
Right.
So my thing was like, I'm not getting caught flat-footed here. I started looking for another place and wrote him a letter notifying him of my intent to move because in my lease, it says I have to give notice by a certain time.
Sure.
So I was like, I haven't heard anything from you. You haven't sent me the lease. Here's my notification of intent to vacate because I'm not trying to you know what I'm saying? Oh, he had that lease delivered to me the next day.
Good.
Right.
He had it
Yeah.
delivered to me the next day with all the terms that I asked for, the extension and everything. Because I
Right.
don't think he didn't intend to do it, but it's like it
They
wasn't
on their own
urgent. You
time.
get what I'm saying? Wasn't an urgency. But when I sent him that notice of intent to vacate in English and Spanish,
He did.
then it was like, oh, hold on. He was like literally the next day he had it hand delivered to me. Right. So it's just, you have to realize that they don't always think of things in urgency the way that we do.
Right.
But that shouldn't stop you from acting on something if it's urgent to you. But
Right.
just realize that it's not always that they're being funny. They just don't, it's not always that way to them.
No, I understand that, because we dealt with that with furniture deliveries when we had to get a mattress for our son when we're here. We're going to be there at 1:00 and they show up at 4:30.
Or they're going to be there on Tuesday and don't come until Friday.
Right.
That type of thing.
Right. But
Very fluid.
yeah, the thing that actually the culmination of us leaving that house is what? Is that house currently and has been vacant since we left.
It's still vacant.
Still
if you'd like to rent it, it's available.
Yeah. It's still vacant. It's still
still
sitting
vacant.
there. As a matter of fact, we complained about the stove that was there, and we told him it was a problem. He came in with parts and things like that and
Tried to jerry rig it.
And then he finally, after we leave out, he replaces the stove.
So we're like, oh wow.
Okay, but it's still vacant and it's sitting there. And like you said earlier, they have money.
Right.
It's that house, they own it. They don't owe anything on it. They just have to pay taxes on it every year. And so they just, it's just going to sit. But it doesn't, for me, if I own the house outright like that and I could rent it and then collect more money, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ensure that I can do that. But what he's doing, specifically him, I'm not sure about other landlords.
Yeah.
But him.
But I thought
No,
the
I
thing
think
that
that's
was
very
most offensive to me is that we were good tenants. We paid on time. We paid you in cash, on time every month. We improved your property.
Right.
We made it. We brought it back to for its former grandeur or what have you. We made sure we left that place better than we left it, or when we found it.
Right.
And so what I did not appreciate was the trying to be the greedy landlord,
trying to get over.
and trying to get over on us when we've been good.
Honestly, I really feel that it's a part of the culture. I don't really think, because I've heard that a lot and I've seen it in action a lot. I really think that for them, it's just like if you're frugal, you're just frugal. They're not really, and I think that that's a big part of the culture is, maybe a lot of the landlords in the past, not all, but some have grown up and they earn all this money and now they have real estate and every little thing is kind of like, oh, I have to have a debate about whether I'm going to fix that, rather than seeing the value in, okay, I have a good tenant, I'm going to try to, remedy or whatever. It's just a very interesting approach because that's not what we're used to. I think in the US, clearly tenants have a lot of rights. Like if you don't fix things that are safety related or, something that they need to use like a stove or hot water or things like that, it could turn into a big thing, right? And here I kind of feel like there are a lot of landlords who will just want to battle with you. And then when you show up and maybe say, you know what, okay, I'm not going to deal with this anymore, I'm going to move on, and it happens very quickly, I think it's kind of surprising to them because they're also not used to the way we respond and how we respond in our culture. So I think a lot of it is really cultural, not so much that that one person just doesn't want to do stuff. Because I've seen a lot of people not want to fix, for example, roof leaks.
Right.
Like this is your house. This is going to damage your space. And the things, a lot of times, I remember my first landlord, I had a good one. Luckily, it was raining in the guest bedroom. And I just sent them a quick video and their furniture, I left the furniture there just for the video. I didn't move it. And I took a like nice video and I was like, it was raining on top of the furniture. And I was like, you need to send someone out here to fix it. And they did right away. So I knew I had a good landlord. Anything I had an issue with, like yours, Anne Marie, they would come and fix stuff right away. They had a property manager and she would just say, oh, I'm just going to take it out of the rent or, pay the rent and then we'll take it out of that. So it kind of depends, but I do think culturally the mentality is we're gonna fix it when it's really broken, not so much a little bit of broken, because I've even taken my car into mechanics and they will ask me what's wrong. And I'm like, I just want to get a tune up, please check the whatever. And it's sort of this kind of like, we fix and we do if it's broken, as opposed to let's be preventative, let's spend money and let's prevent the problem from happening. So I think that that's a big part of those challenges. But so you moved and is it going better in your
Absolutely.
Yeah.
space?
Absolutely. We
Okay,
haven't
good.
had any of the issues. We just finished 2 years and just renewed our lease.
Nice.
We decided to have conversations with the owner to see whether we want to buy or whatnot. And we're still we'll see how that works out. I felt like the realtor in that instance was being a little on the greedy side in
Yes.
terms of pricing the property. I've done
Probably.
comps. I know how this works. Don't try to fool me or don't try to play me with that or what have you. But one thing that is kind of a bad thing in terms of rental prices is at least in the MLS and in public records, you can find out, well, that's how much they were asking this much, but how much did they actually get in terms of the purchase price? What was the purchase price? So the realtor was trying to say, oh, well, these prices, these homes in your neighborhood go for this much. I was like, no, that's what they're asking.
Right.
But what have the homes
Sold for. Right.
And so because we could not get a good gauge on that, I was like, well, wait a minute, let's play it by ear again. Let's renew for another 2 years and let's see how we work things.
Yeah,
About
I mean,
realtors, Michelle, can I say something about realtors?
sure.
Because my experience with realtors here in San Miguel, where you could throw a stone down the sidewalk and hit about 5 of them in the head, is everybody is a realtor, which to me means nobody really is a realtor. And so you need to pay attention. For me, it's always about whether someone listens to me. And the person I've used recently, I use her because she listens to me because I write a whole list of what I want. And I have found that when I have sent my list to other realtors, they have come back with things that were not what's on my list, and which tells me they're not listening to me. They just want to show me what they want to show me. Like if I say my budget is 20,000 pesos, don't show me nothing for 30. 'Cause
Right.
that's 20. Don't show me nothing for 30.
Right.
Don't even show me nothing for 25 because I said 20. And so that's an easy way to see whether someone is really listening to you or whether they're just trying to make their commission. Right. You figure you're American and you just, gonna just spend because Americans, apparently a lot of people here think that if you're American, you're just gonna spend whatever. Right. So pay attention to whether when you're selecting a realtor, talk to multiple realtors, write down what you're looking for in detail, and pay attention to what they send you the first time, because that's gonna tell you everything you need to know about whether they're really listening to you or not.
Yeah. And that's the reason why I acted as our realtor, because I knew that even when we had the list, he was still not going to honor it. He was still going to be like, well, but, and I didn't want to put anybody through that. I know exactly what he likes and I know what he's looking for. I know what we need. Let's go. And when I want to see it, I'm ready to go. Let's go. That type of thing. So it worked out beautifully for us in that regard. Will we buy this house? We still don't know. Not sure. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think boots on the ground, you're there, you've had a few years of experience, quite a few years of experience living in Querétaro. I always tell people yes, it's nice to buy, but I also think it's a good idea to just try on something before you
Mhm.
really commit, and make sure it's for you because buying it's a different thing. It's now you're
Whole
kind of
different ball game.
anchored.
Yeah.
You're anchored to this. Not
Right.
to say you can't
Exactly.
sell it, but it's a whole different commitment. If you just know for sure this is where you want to be, I encourage, go ahead, go for it. I've had quite a few clients that loved San Miguel, first time out, maybe second time they visited and they bought a house, and then those who rent for a bit and buy, and then those who are just like, I want to rent, this is my home base, but I'm going to move around and do other things as well. So I feel, as I always say, everyone's situation is different, everyone's blueprint is different, and I think it's important for you to take your time and really understand like what your needs are and how you process and what works for you, and not necessarily try to mimic other things, but take this advice, this lot of advice, and make sure listen to it. Next week we're going to have someone else on to talk about their experience, which is also quite unique and different. And so I'm also interested to hear the whole story. I know bits and pieces of it, and so we're going to continue the conversation. I did want to address a couple of the questions that we had. One was from Angel. She wanted to know if Anne-Marie bopped around to different rentals from her first rental, or has she been in her original rental location? I'll let
No,
you answer that.
I've
Okay,
moved
because I know.
3 times. I'm in my third rental now, which is my
Okay.
favorite rental. It's the smallest rental, and yet it's my favorite because I like where it is and I like my landlord, and it's exactly like what I need. I feel like the first times I kind of was like, oh, I can afford it, get this big old house. And then every time I hear a noise or my dog growls, I'm like, who else is in the house with me? So
That's
no,
an
I
issue.
bopped around, and it was a good way to also check out different neighborhoods because everyone will say central, 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 especially in San Miguel. But I found I actually wanted to be somewhere quieter. So I moved somewhere quieter, but it's still close enough that I can walk when I want to, but it's still far away enough from a lot
Yeah.
of San Miguel sights and sounds, especially the
Yes.
sound.
Yeah, the sounds. That's why I like living in Los Feliz. I just think it's cool down here. I wanted to add, let's see, someone wanted to know if Angela and Namar, would you exercise your option to buy? Sharon asked this question.
We were considering it at one point in time, very seriously considering it. I think at this point we might actually be exploring our options of building
Building.
a house
Yes.
because of but if ever there were a house that I would buy, it would probably be this one.
Right. Yeah, it would be.
Okay, and that's good. I've had a couple clients who rented their home and then ended up buying their home that they were renting. And I think that's also an excellent way to be like, well, I already know what the problems are, especially
Right.
if you invested money in that space,
Right.
whatever that might be. It just kind of makes sense. And someone wanted to know, let's see, I'm not going to be able to get to every question,
Sure.
but let's see. What was the other one I saw? Okay, someone asked about, okay, what is the average? And I don't know that we can really answer this, but I'll let you guys take a stab at it. What is the average for a two-bedroom rental in
House or apartment?
walkable distance from the center of town? Now I
Um,
know, yeah, I don't, okay, I'm going to answer for San Miguel. There
Okay.
is no average. There's no average. There's just no average. I think you just need to know what's your budget and then go out there and try to find something that works for you. That's my
Yeah.
short answer.
It would
Anyone else?
probably run about the same with Querétaro. The reason why it varies is because the property it depends on if you're in Centro, it depends on what you're getting. You might be
Right.
getting an older home with older fixtures and infrastructure, things like that, that may cost one thing. Or you could have a 2-bedroom that has been completely gutted and inside is modern and new and fresh and updated and all those and has all the bells and whistles, which
Right.
could be a lot. Now, my daughter in Mexico City has a 2-bedroom apartment that she pays $650 for. 2 bedrooms, 2 baths within a high-rise building with a doorman. And I've often joked with her in Querétaro, you could have a house for $650 for, $650 US. That's a house here, or a townhouse,
Right.
here. So it depends really on where the area that you're looking for, how old it could possibly be, the amenities that are offered within the house. There's a lot of variables that you can get. And also, a lot of the homes that you might find, you will never see advertised online. It is
Right.
literally because you walked by and there's a sign up in the window that says, renta, that, oh, there's a house for sale, and the number that you call, and that's
Right.
how they handle it here. So it's
Exactly.
not there's the gamut is wide in terms of what
Yeah.
you might actually pay.
Right, and I think too in San Miguel it's extremely wide because to me there is not really an average. I just say that you can get a place for rent from $300 to $5,000,
Yeah.
and it could be a 2-bedroom. I've seen 2 bedrooms for $2,000 US dollars, which I think is outrageous personally. But if you can afford it, no problem, go for it. I'm talking from the standpoint of where I lived and then moving to Mexico. Now, other people coming from somewhere where rent is $6,000, maybe that's a grand amount. So no judgment. I'm just talking about my personal thing. And you can also get places that are pretty decent, maybe just a little bit outside of town. You can still walk if you're a walker, and maybe it is 500, 400, 600, 700. It all just depends. So I think the best thing is always to come and do your research. If you don't have a lot of money to invest in getting the help, I highly recommend getting help. If you don't, then you're going to have to invest time, and you're going to have to come here and put the boots on the ground. You're going to have to look online. You're going to have to do all the research. You're going to have to ask a lot of questions, join the groups, and all the things to kind of get to what you need to get to. Again, I'm not saying just spill and pour your money wherever, but make informed choices that will save you a lot of headaches and a lot of problems in the long run. Go
I
ahead.
would really discourage people from assuming that just because they can afford something, they should pay it here. It's a big problem, causing big problems
Exactly.
here. And I would really discourage people from doing that. Please do your homework and know how much the rent should actually be, because it's causing a lot of problems in terms of what the rent costs and the rent and the gentrification.
For the
Because
locals.
people are not even, just because you can afford $2,000 doesn't mean you should pay it, right? Because if average rent for a local person is $300 or $400, yes, you're going to pay a gringo price, so you're probably going to get to pay $7, but you shouldn't be paying $2. And that's part of the problem, is that just people are coming and throwing money around like drug dealers, and it's causing a lot of problems. And so I'm like, please, in fact, do your homework. Please, in fact, contact the landlord and use Google Translate and speak to them in Spanish, and don't speak to them in English, and see what they tell you about what the place is available for, in fact, right? And then when you show it with your American self, they may hem and haw, but at least the place is actually really $700 US and not $1,500. Because it's really, just because you can pay $1,500 or $2,000 doesn't mean that you should. So it really would be helpful to do some homework. And I have found that reaching out to people in Spanish has helped me a lot of getting information and figure out the apartment, like what's the neighborhood you want to live in, get an Airbnb, and then walk around the neighborhood. Because like Angela said, you'll see signs in the windows and on buildings that you won't even see on Facebook Marketplace. You won't see it in any of the listings.
Right.
But if you walk around the neighborhoods that you're interested in, you can see places and then reach out in Spanish or get someone to do it for you. It will be money well spent. And even pay someone to do all the negotiations and show up and sign on the day of signing. Then they'll find out. They don't need to know you're a gringo. They don't need to know.
Right.
Yes,
And we
that's
have people
exactly
that
what my
can do
daughter did.
that.
She had her boyfriend, who's Mexican. He went and got the location, or went and saw and negotiated with the price, and she showed up and signed on the dotted
Exactly.
line. So the price that
Exactly.
they were telling her was different from the price
You're
that
also
they
telling
told him.
Americans, right?
And it's only because
Absolutely.
they're Latino.
Yeah.
And she
Absolutely.
speaks
And
Spanish.
it
It
doesn't
doesn't
matter.
even matter when you
Do the
speak Spanish.
same.
They see
Yep.
your
Yeah,
American self, and that changes the pricing. So if
Right.
you
exactly.
cannot even hire someone, but it has to be someone trustworthy. So I think
Yeah.
getting a translator, like Michelle said, is a really good idea because they're
Yeah.
not a realtor. So they don't have any skin in that particular game. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But just initially reaching out to ask questions using Google Translate will go a long way to helping you get a better idea of what things are supposed to actually cost and going into the Mexican Facebook groups, not the
That's
American ones.
right.
And it'll help you with your
Exactly.
Spanish too. Trust
Yeah.
Exactly.
me. Go into
Well,
the
there's also
American Facebook
translate at the
and
bottom.
translate that sucker. And you're
That's
going to
right.
find out how much more money you're paying as an immigrant.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say to start with is before you even move and then figure out the neighborhoods and pick an Airbnb like in a neighborhood that's also adjacent to another neighborhood, especially in San
Yes.
Francisco, and walk around.
Absolutely. Someone
Yeah.
asked a question, more people asked questions. We're not going to get to all of them. I just wanted to address TJ, wanted to know if I'm giving any relocation tours in December. My last relocation tour is actually in November. I think it's the 8th through the 14th. I dropped it in the chat, but you can also find it on the events page. I'll drop the link in the chat. That is the last one. I am currently hosting one right now, and then the next one is in November. And then I have already the ones for 2026, but December, no. Try not to be here in December. It's kind of cold. So just kind of wanted to answer that. There's a lot of questions from the group, but it's kind of getting a little bit later. Let's see if there's one that we should address on Cabo, and I know someone wanted to know like what areas. In San Miguel, I'll just say that it all just depends on your preference. A lot of people talk about San Antonio. I personally don't like San Antonio that much. I don't know what the rave is, but it doesn't mean it's not nice for a lot of people. It's just my personal preference. I like Guadiana, I like Guadalupe, I like the area around the Fabrica Aurora, which is the art gallery. I'm not too big of a fan to be in Central because it's just too noisy for me, and there's just a lot of things going on, and there's traffic. And if your house is on a cobblestone road, like you're gonna hear cars going by all day long, fireworks. Now, it doesn't mean don't try that on. If that's what you want, you should go for it. So for myself, though, I am not a fan of constant just noise. I realize the older I get, I become more and more noise sensitive and I feel grumpy if I just hear like constant banging and beep beep
Barking.
and all, yeah, barking. I mean, I do have dogs in my neighborhood. There's a train here as well, but I don't hear that as much, but it's pretty quiet here in general. So, and I like that I have a yard and things like that. So you kind of need to know what works for you. I think, again, you should come and evaluate and take the trip if you can. Do what, Lamar and Angela did. You mentioned that you had a realtor kind of show you some things on video as well. I wouldn't do sight unseen. That means don't
No.
rent before you get here. But if someone's already willing to work with you and show you things on video, you should do that. I know that there's someone locally who started, I don't want to mess up their Scouting About. Terry, they're now like kind of helping people who are trying to like figure out where to go and what to do.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a great idea. Like if you want somebody to go and look at an apartment for you and give you their opinion, I still would not do sight unseen. That's just me. I need to see it. I need to put my own 2 feet inside that space because I see and I notice things because I used to do property services. That was my business in Florida. So I noticed the bubbling paint behind the toilet and I know
Right.
there's probably an issue. And just like, Anne-Marie mentioned earlier, turning all the things on, making sure things work, making sure you check the pressure. There's so many things that can slip through the cracks and they're not going to tell you this. And also making sure that they're going to be willing to fix it and not give you a lot of, problems. So it's just like a challenge. Go ahead.
I would recommend doing a combination of those two things, which I actually did as Michelle knows me, I was like gone a lot when I just moved here. I was traveling because I was getting my travel around. But I had a lovely person who was house sitting for me. And I gave her my list. I identified the places and then I sent her and she FaceTimed me. I don't remember where in the world I was, but I had her walk around, turn the water on, do all the things that I would have done myself. And I think the person, remember I told you about the roaches, it was that place. The person had come and cleaned ahead of her visit with the realtor. But she walked around with the camera and like walked through the whole place so that I could see it. I still didn't sign anything until I came back and did a walkthrough of my own, but I picked it based on her. She went and looked at some other places. She looked at like 3 or 4 places because she found it fun because she was also interested in San Miguel. So she got to check out some neighborhoods she wouldn't have seen otherwise and looked at places as well. But I like gave her a list. And so
Yeah.
she did that for me. So she went, she FaceTimed each place, walked through. She like estimated the distance because I asked her to walk to each place because I wanted to make sure of the distance because the realtors will be like, sure, it's a 12-minute walk. Then you put the address in and it's a 25-minute walk. It's a 12-minute car ride, but it's not a 12-minute walk. So even
Yeah.
things like that, she was able to tell me one place, she was like, yeah, it took me like 30 minutes to walk here. And I was like, don't even bother to look at it.
Yeah.
I'm not
There's
gonna.
another thing that we had to really take into consideration when we were looking for properties, and we do this now even for members of the Lamar and Angela family, and that is the internet, especially if you're going to be working abroad and or working digitally. Huge issue,
Right.
and it varies by location, it varies by building. A lot of things, you know, there are a lot of considerations to take into consideration when you're thinking about the
Right.
internet, which is why Lamar opened his business VDG Tech to do just that, to wire homes, because this is the second home that we've been in that's wired from head to toe, from literally from the third floor roof to the outdoor terraces to the front door down all the way to the first floor. We have internet, strong fiber optic internet that gives us signals, and we don't have that issue. Lamar put in a whole house generator so that when the power goes out, we look like the shining house on the hill,
Right.
but our lights don't go out. So
Nice.
it's a matter of things like that you really do have to take into consideration when you're
And
moving.
these are all things even in San Miguel. That's one thing I found the Facebook group was helpful for me for when I was researching, because I found out what places had the most outages.
Mhm.
That had a lot of outages. And so when I moved to this neighborhood, actually, they were having a lot more outage, but there was a problem here and they fixed it.
Right.
And I also asked questions about Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
right? I need Wi-Fi to work. And the neighborhood that I lived in, my landlord, I was lucky enough, had redundant Wi-Fi because they were also writers but the neighborhood itself had a lot of Wi-Fi issues. I didn't have Wi-Fi issues, but the neighborhood had Wi-Fi issues. So those are
Yeah,
things that you also want to do research about, because it varies in San Miguel from neighborhood to neighborhood. Also knowing which company has the best
Services, right.
service in
Right.
the
Right.
I'm lucky again, my landlord is lovely. So when I complained about the Wi-Fi reception in my bedroom, he had them come out and extend the Wi-Fi so that it worked better and test everything. So now I don't have any problems with the Wi-Fi in my bedroom. Everybody's landlord might not do that though. So
Right.
those are things you want to make sure that when you come to each place, you ask for the Wi-Fi, you see, like check whether you can connect to it easily. Is it working properly when you're visiting? Turn the TV on. Is it a streaming TV? Turn that sucker on. Make sure you can turn on Netflix. Make sure it's working. Don't take any of that stuff for granted. I've been lucky so far that I haven't had a lot of Wi-Fi problems here, but I know people do have them. So going into groups in Facebook, that's a good thing to do, and ask people
Right.
what places and what neighborhoods do you live in and how's your Wi-Fi and that kind of stuff, because Wi-Fi here can be very inconsistent across the country.
Yeah.
Miguel is
With
consistent.
that, it's for me being a technical person the way I am. The Wi-Fi is what you make it in your house. That's why I started my business to help people configure that, to make sure that you have those connections, that it works, that if you're streaming on a television, because our televisions aren't connected via Wi-Fi here. They're connected hardwire. We don't have streaming issues in our house because of that. And it's a lot better when it works in that way. So for any home, it's good to have your Wi-Fi set up so that each area has a wired access point, and that's very important. So it's what you make it in your house, and I'm glad that you and Marie have a good connection. But some people don't have that because of the way houses are constructed here in Mexico, because of the concrete and the reinforced steel. That is
It's
the
hard.
enemy of radio signals. So you have to position extenders, and not extenders, but access points. And just one thing, and my wife saying,
I'm about to.
an
Don't go too
extender,
technical.
an extender is something that talks via radio, whereas an access point is actually connected via Ethernet back. So it's a lot faster, passes the information quicker. So you need those kind of things in your house, because just relying on a radio signal in a house is not going to get what you need most of the time.
I was actually lucky that he did the former and not the latter. He did he hardwired it for me.
Yeah,
That's
that's
but most people don't have that. Yeah.
right. That's the best way to have, because Wi-Fi is convenient for cell phones and tablets and sometimes with your laptop. But when you're wanting to have good connectivity to watch a television show, or you're downloading a lot of data, if you're a graphic artist and you need to download and transfer a lot of data,
we're having Zoom meetings.
That signal goes up and down in your house, and that is a problem.
It's a huge problem here because everyone's place is concrete, and that's something to keep in mind if you're thinking about moving here. Is exactly what Lamar said. So maybe y'all need to write Lamar's information down if you're planning to move.
That's right. I mean, you need to let us know. Do you come to San Miguel? Because
I come to San Miguel for sure. I'll come to San Miguel.
No, that's good to know.
It is a huge issue. Can be a huge issue here, and since a lot of people who come here from the U.S. and other places are working online, Wi-Fi is super, super, super important. So that was something I really paid attention to when I was moving. Each place, because I knew I needed it. And the first place I went to probably had the poorest quality Wi-Fi. Of the other place, the place I moved to the second time, it was much, much better because they had a redundant system because they were American and they had worked out of the property and they knew that they needed they had 3 different Wi-Fi services coming into the house, and they had all kinds of stuff, satellites and all kinds of stuff, but more stuff than I actually needed. But here, my landlord kind of worked with me to give me what I told him I needed, so that I don't have problems being able to work from here. But it is a huge problem, and you hear people complain in the groups all the time about it. So it's something to be aware of, that if you're planning to move here, you might need to hire someone like Lamar to get you the quality of the connection.
Even when you're building a house, that taking that into consideration ahead of time, the outlets, how many outlets you want, how many connections, where you want those things positioned. He works with builders to.
I have a client right now that I'm, had to work with her architect to make sure she had conduits installed in right places. So she has the connectivity throughout our house that she needs.
But this is stuff that you don't necessarily initially think of when you're moving to Mexico.
Right. And also, I mean, I think depending also where you are, I feel that at least places that are pretty close to Central, and San Miguel is such a compact city that they've done a pretty good job with the internet provisions that people have access to now. If you go just a little bit outside, then now you're really going to run into issues. I know that since I moved here, they've updated a lot of their fiber optic wiring and all the things. I remember that was a big thing about 2-3 years ago, and everyone was like, oh, I got to get that, I got to get whatever. And I have 2 separate accounts in my house because of the cement block and all the things. And I do have extenders. They don't always work right. I've even purchased, first of all, the ones from the cable company is a joke, but I've purchased better extenders, which are much we're definitely the canister ones. I don't remember the brand, but those actually work a lot better. But I think the way you're doing what you do, I think makes the most sense, especially for people who really need reliable internet for their work and things like that. So definitely, we'll get your details and add it to the description. I wanted to give this last question. Well, someone wanted to know what neighborhood you were in, Anne Marie, if you feel like sharing.
I'll share where I live on the internet.
Okay,
San
so
Miguel.
there's
Yeah, yeah.
there's that. She's in San Miguel.
That's the lawyer in me. Sorry, y'all.
No, that's okay. I kind of anticipated that. Lamar and Angela's Release Your Life asked, I hope I can ask, sorry, I don't have my glasses, ask you about visiting Querétaro. Would it be best before Dia de los Muertos or after that?
Dia de los Muertos is a great time to come visit Querétaro.
Querétaro.
It's beautiful. Anytime from probably around mid-October on, you're going to, as soon as they start putting up the Christmas lights and it's a beautiful thing.
Central is absolutely beautiful. Downtown Central here in Querétaro. It is really, they go all out.
They do. So it's a good time. You'll be very pleased. I'm actually looking forward to Independence Day.
There's never a bad time to visit Mexico. And I would say that Querétaro is pretty dope. I don't think people appreciate how cool it is. I've always told people if I ever left San Miguel, that's the only place I would move to. I wouldn't go anywhere else.
To Querétaro?
Michelle knows I'm always threatening to move to Querétaro.
Well, I'll come back and get you. I'll come get you. Get back over here.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, we covered a lot. I mean, there's still a lot more we could cover and talk about. But as I said earlier, we will have a part one. Well, tonight's part one. We'll have a part two next week, which will be a complete different experience and story. And just, it's a lot of information. It's a lot to know. Our recommendations, I think, our final word could be just like a minute long, is, at least for me, is really try to come, stay maybe in a place that you like or several places that you enjoy. And if you can Airbnb in those places for at least 2 weeks, it really can give you a good overview of what that area is like, and also what that street that you might be interested in is like. You can have really cool neighborhoods, and maybe there's a barking dog, right on the roof next to you, and maybe the dog never shows up until you sign your lease, and so then that's an issue, right? So now you have 12 months of barking dog. So there's always stuff, and if you can communicate enough to ask your immediate neighbors questions before you move in, in a nice, polite way, because, they might be like, why are you asking me, whatever. But I think it's not a bad idea to try to just kind of get a vibe. How are people responding to you as a person? Do you feel welcome? Most of the time, you will be welcome. So I think it's a great idea to try on those different places that are of interest to you, and not just necessarily dive in. Now, if you go there, you just love it, it feels right, definitely always tap into your intuition. It feels right, it feels good to you. The realtor hopefully is in your corner. Of course, they're in the corner of making their money, but there are a lot of really good realtors out there that'll be pretty honest and do pretty much try to look out for their clients, especially if they feel like we're going to recommend more people to them. So that's also a factor. But I think it's important to just try to give it a try before committing to a long lease. And if you do love the place and you decide, I'm going to be here for a while, negotiate. See if you want to stay longer, because you're going to put money into it. Do a 2-year, like you said, 3-year, whatever. Lock in your contract, lock in your rent, and hopefully it's a good situation for you and you're a good citizen, and you make us look good as foreigners. All right, and anyone want to do like a quick closing before we go? Any tips?
If you are interested in learning more about Querétaro, please join us over on our YouTube channel, Lamar and Angela, or join our Facebook group, Black Querétaro. Black Querétaro is our Facebook group. we're more than willing in our community to help you figure out where the neighborhoods are, who
Right.
the doctors are, where the realtors are, all of the things.
Even the
And
handyman and plumbers and things like that that we've experienced that are
hair care
right.
products, all that,
Nice.
everything.
Awesome. I'm
Black
putting
tenants
it
are on
in.
my Facebook.
Awesome. I put that in. I don't have the link, but you can find it by looking it up. And I know a lot of people can't spell Querétaro, but if you go to Google, it'll help you spell
It
it. They
begins
can't
with the
say it
Q.
either. Right,
Curates.
right, that part. And Anne Marie,
Um,
any last
I
tips?
mean, I think Lamar and Angela did a really great job of sharing like all of the high level things that you need to do. And Michelle, for me, is the point person for San Miguel. So please don't contact me if you're interested in San Miguel. Let me just put that out there. If you would like to talk about travel and style and getting your employer to pay you to move to Mexico, do feel free to follow me on BaldGirlWillTravel and at the Anti-HR on YouTube. And I do have a Facebook group for Black women over 40 who love or aspire to travel, especially solo travel. So you can also join that Facebook group, and Michelle can drop that in the link because she's in the group.
Yes.
So you know, I think that there's a lot of good information here. My bottom line is just remember you're moving to a different place. Bring your flexibility, but also bring your brain with you. You know,
Yeah.
we always say, take it's okay to fall in love, but take your brain with you. It's the same thing when you're moving somewhere. It's okay to fall in love with the place, but take your brain with you. Don't leave it home. Bring it with you and think about exactly how you would conduct yourself at home. This is going to be your new home. So conduct yourself the same way. Do the same kind of due diligence that you're not going to go rent an apartment in Washington, D.C. sight unseen or Maryland, right? So
Right.
you should do that in Mexico. So make sure you do all your homework before you sign it and make sure you understand really, really well what you're signing before you sign it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely, because there's nothing worse than just feeling, taken advantage of, jaded, anything you want to call it, however you want to call it, and just feeling, defeated or deflated by the situation. And it's happened a lot. Tonight we're talking about it, but it has happened, I think, to a lot of people. So if there's anyone out here watching, and whether it's now on the replay, make sure you hit the like button first, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. But I will say that I would like to do interviews with people who it didn't work out and now you move back to the United States. So feel free to call me and reach out to me. And I say call me, no one has my phone number. That's in the general public, though. That's the wrong thing. info@casaelm.com. You can send an email there if this is something that you would like to get on and share. Again, this is not to put your business per se in the streets. It's just for us to be able to say these things do happen. I know several people that just didn't work out, they moved back, and I'm not. Like I remember one client that I had quite a few years ago. She came, she was already in gun ho, and it didn't work out because her rental was not a good situation and she wasn't happy and all the things. And so those things happen, and that's kind of, why I want to be as transparent with people about situations, and hopefully this helps to prevent more of those types of situations in the future for other people, and just things that maybe people would say, I would do this different, or I would change my approach, I would do this way. So that's really the point. It's not really to make it look like an epic fail. It's just that life is always lifing, not just in the U.S. but also in Mexico. So on that note, thank you all for being here. If you have questions, I'm just going to put this in the chat. Someone was asking me, Melva was asking me about Thanksgiving. Yeah, I have my Thanksgiving week, but I do have Thanksgiving brunch, which is November 23rd. It's the Sunday before Thanksgiving. So if you just want to attend a one-day type thing, you're welcome to go online. You can go to casaelm.com, go to the events page, and you can get your ticket there. We only have 7 seats left. And once they're sold, don't ask me if you can get a ticket. The answer is no, because I, like Angela and probably others, I'm very particular about my decor and my design. So I'm not going to have a jackleg table at the end of my good table just to accommodate extra people. I have
And
20
Michelle's
seats.
tables are beautiful.
Thank you. I have 20 seats, and now I have 8 left. So if you're interested in coming, I just dropped the link, and that's it. So actually 7, once those tickets are done, they're done, and we're not going to be adding anything extra. There is no kiddie space either. So
Michelle,
meaning,
is there a SMA, a Black SMA brunch? Did you mention that already? In November, is just the Thanksgiving?
no, that is it. That is it. I normally do a Black SMA brunch at the last Sunday of every month, and it just depends. We gather at different restaurants and things. But last year, I said I would do the last brunch of the year at Casa. We had Danielle sing and just live entertainment. It was a lot of fun. Chef Jackie cooked amazing soul food. And this year, it's a whole Jamaican fusion. So you can see the menu at the link, all the things. So if that's something for you, get your tickets, because I literally just announced it less than 2 weeks ago, and we just have, I think, 8 or 7 tickets left. I don't know off the top. But that's it. That's it, folks. Anything else before we wrap this up?
No.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for
Thank
inviting
you.
us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here tonight. Again, Casa Elm, casaelm.com. Make sure you look in the description for all of the links to our beautiful guests. Thank you all so much for sharing your stories. Thank everyone in the chat for all the questions and all the comments. I'm sorry if I missed things. I did not kind of focus on that, but you're welcome to drop us email and ask questions, and also reach out to our guests and ask them any questions about their experiences that we talked about tonight. And I appreciate you all. Make sure you join us next week, Wednesday. We will have another guest on for part 2 of this series, talking about renting, buying. Next week will be a mix of both. And I'm very interested also to get the story, but she's willing to share her experience with the audience. So this is also going to be very educational. So make sure you join us. It'll be with April. And yeah, that's it. Hang on, hang tight, ladies. Oh, Jen, just 1 second.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Don't hang up. 1 second.
Thank you. My poodle has been staring me down for the last 3 minutes. So I
Oh, Ashton. Ashton
very
wants my
quiet, but I
chicken.
know when she wants something because she's staring at me.
Our boy down here has been kicking me in my leg. He's
Yeah.
been stretching because he's asleep down here. He keeps pushing my leg.
I know what it is. Ashton hears my voice and she wants my chicken.